Members of the committee, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed an honor and distinct pleasure to be with you here this evening. I will be presenting the priorities of the Cypriot presidency in development cooperation, international partnerships, external financing, and humanitarian assistance. Our presidency begins, as we reconfirmed, at the moment of deepening crisis and fragility, with tightening budgets, with rising expectations. And in such times and with such challenges, EU leadership is what our citizens expect, what the international community needs, and what those suffering deserve. This is indeed a Herculean task that is to be carried out with unwavering commitment to principles. As the European Union, we are committed to principle and we are principled in our commitment. More than 2 billion people live in fragile contexts. Poverty, inequality, and instability reinforce each other. They spill across borders, thus affecting regional and global stability, including our own European stability and security. We'll place this realization of this complex fragility at the heart of the development and humanitarian agenda. Times, but also long-term positioning, necessitate the promotion of a development-centered approach, one that balances immediate humanitarian needs with long-term structural support. This committee has been, for a very long time, a strong voice of conscience and for our duty, a strong advocate on development cooperation and on tackling fragility. And we value and share this commitment of yours, a commitment that can be codified as follows. The EU must lead by example and also be an example of leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, our thematic priorities include water security, resilient health systems, youth opportunities, and women's empowerment. This will guide our work across the regions where fragility is most acute, including in the southern neighborhood, the MENA region, sub-Saharan Africa, and small island developing states. We will emphasize local ownership, equitable partnerships, and the humanitarian development peace nexus, ensuring that development, peace, and stability reinforce one another. On the amendment of the External Action Guarantee, I would like to acknowledge the constructive spirit in which the trilogue was recently conducted. And I'm very pleased that it allowed us to reach a provisional agreement. The engagement and openness of DEVE and AFET rapporteurs, the frank and focused exchanges have been instrumental in moving this file forward. Our objective remains clear. First, enhance the efficiency of the External Action Guarantee. Secondly, ensure it continues to serve as a credible tool for mobilizing investment. And thirdly, being fully compatible with the framework and objectives of the EU's Neighbourhood Development International Cooperation Instrument, Global Europe. With the compromise now agreed, we hope that formal adoption by both co-legislators can proceed swiftly. This will allow the amended regulation to enter into force in good time for the next annual budget, thus ensuring continuity and predictability for our partners and for the implementing institutions. Global Gateway has evolved into the EU's flagship strategy for sustainable, value-based investment. With more than 306 billion mobilized, the focus now shifts from ambition to delivery. This presidency will promote discussions on governance, on transparency, and on the role of the Global Gateway Board. We'll highlight local ownership, private sector mobilization, including SMEs, and effective multilateralism. We see that partnership as essential to delivering transformative, high-standard investments aligned with partnered country priorities. A 360-degree approach must underpin Global Gateway, one that ensures that development, economic, geopolitical, and security considerations do not stand alone, but that they are integrated in a coherent and mutually reinforcing way. We also welcome the Parliament's active role on Global Gateway, including the joint DEVE report, which is now underway. It's another example that demonstrates your strong interest in shaping the future direction of the strategy. The future Global Europe instrument will be one of the central priorities of our presidency. And the next MFF must equip the Union with an external financing instrument that is credible, predictable, and capable of supporting the EU's strategic ambitions in an increasingly complex world. Our aim is to deliver a partial general approach in June, thus providing a solid and balanced Council position for the interinstitutional negotiations. We welcome the appointment of the DEVE and AFET rapporteurs and the shadow rapporteurs, and we look forward to engaging actively with you as you develop your position. This will facilitate that once the Council has adopted its partial general approach, the co-legislators can move forward swiftly and constructively. Ladies and gentlemen, around the world, protracted conflicts, climate-related shocks, and the widening humanitarian funding gap are placing immense pressure on communities, on humanitarian actors, and on the international system. In this challenging context, our work programme aims to reinforce the EU's role as a principled and effective humanitarian actor. A central focus of our work will be on the protection of civilians, of humanitarian workers, and of essential humanitarian infrastructure, thus entrenching the preservation of this much-needed humanitarian space. Today we are witnessing, across multiple crises, violations of international humanitarian law, with attacks on civilians and aid personnel, with the weaponization of aid and the weakening of the established humanitarian structures. We must strengthen the effectiveness and credibility of the humanitarian system, with humanitarian diplomacy aiming to ensure the effectiveness and capability to operate as humanitarian actors. Building on the work of our trio partners, the Cyprus Presidency will keep the humanitarian reset high on the Council agenda. We will be supporting EU efforts to improve efficiency, accountability, and localization, in conjunction with safeguarding humanitarian principles and a needs-based approach. Moreover, preparedness and anticipatory action are equally essential for an EU that is proactive and not just reactive. By investing in risk-informed approaches, early warning systems, and pre-arranged financing, we can save lives and ensure the impactful use of the EU's funding. Geographically, our presidency adopts a clear needs-based focus. In Africa, particularly in the Sahel, the Horn of Africa, and the Great Lakes region. Conflict and climate-related shocks continue to drive some of the world's most severe and underfunded crises, including in Sudan and Eastern DRC. In this context, sustainable EU engagement and a reinforced Team Europe approach are essential. As regards the situation in the Middle East, Gaza lies at the epicenter, while severe humanitarian needs also continue to exist across Syria and Lebanon. The EU's efforts will remain focused on civilian protection and humanitarian access. Ukraine is and will remain a standing priority as well. In conclusion, through this EU-centered, needs-based approach, the Republic of Cyprus seeks to contribute to a coherent, principled, and effective European humanitarian response, always working closely with the European Parliament and our partners around the world. Thank you for your attention.